Hi, everyone. It's here already. My name is Ty. I am co-founder of Legalboards. And today we have here with us Sandra. Sandra is a project management coach that will join us today. And Sandra helps lawyers and other professionals to grow their practices and build a career. So with 19 years more of experience, she has also a speaker, writer, entrepreneur in residence at York University. Outside of work, she loves painting. By the way, she has a really good podcast that she's deliver a little bit more about her passion, yoga, meditation, and reading. So let's get started. Thank you so much, Sandra, to join us. Sandra, you're going to deliver this speech today. And after that, we're going to have a few Q&A. So if someone have questions, please just drop here at the Zoom, and I'm going to help to mediate that. And if we have time, we can take a look at how to apply a few tips and tricks that Sandra, you're going to deliver using Kanban style. Don't need to be Legalboards, but of course, I'm going to use Legalboards in this session. And that's it. So thank you so much, Sandra.
Thank you, Ty, for this opportunity. I love the partnership. And
Yeah.
hello, everyone. So we're going to talk about shifting your mindset to drive better engagement, performance, and accountability from your team. But before we dig in, I wanted to tell you a little story. When I was a young manager, I got a pretty big promotion. I was excited, but before you get excited for me, it really didn't go that well, at least not in the beginning. It was chaos, total chaos. And until I learned a few management tricks, then things started to fall into place. I learned how to communicate with my supervisor in a way that was effective. I learned how to place my attention on what my supervisor cared about. I learned how to develop the right allies. And I learned how to leverage power that I didn't even know that I had in order to influence change. After that, things started to get significantly better for everyone, my team, myself, and my manager. So why am I telling you this story from a million years ago? This experience taught me that it's harder to lead than it looks, as I'm sure many of you know. And yet, even when a situation feels frustrating, even when it feels like it's going on for a long, long time, there still may be a way to shift your view of your own role to drive a different and a better result, even if there's nothing else that you can do. You can change the way you view your own role to change the results. And that is true for leaders at every level. In my little story, it was true for me as the newly promoted manager. And because I did that in my own role, it was true for my manager and for their manager. Okay, so whether you're a law firm owner, a practice manager, or you lead a team, if you're frustrated by poor performance, lack of accountability, or you're feeling the possibilities of more, but you don't know how to pursue it just yet, know this: you can change your mindset to explore ways to get your team to meet its potential. So we're going to look at this through the lens of three key managerial processes: prioritization, delegation, and performance management. All right, let's start with prioritization. I know that it can be very frustrating to watch over and over again as individuals on your team don't make progress on the things that you care about. While, they actually keep making progress on the things that for you are not priority. And they're excited about those things, and you have tried to deliver your message about what matters, and it doesn't seem to change anything. So instead of getting upset that this pattern continues, you can actually explore ways to change your mindset about ways to help them to focus on the right things. Okay, so let's talk about some ideas to do that. And these are prioritization techniques. Maybe you have a system, but here's an idea for a simple system, and Ty's going to show us how to use legal boards to do this in a way that actually takes it from the abstract concept into reality, like actually use this idea. Okay, so creating a priority system starts with a scale. You have a scale that you all agree on. 1, 2, 3. It's literally as simple as that. What does a priority 1 look like? That's your high priority, your urgent thing. What's your priority 2? Less priority. 3. That we'll get to it when we can get to it. And how do you balance between the 1s and the 2s and the 3s? Because if everything's a 1, you don't have a priority system. That was me in that young manager role. That's a chaotic environment. And if you don't agree on what the 1s are, you also don't have a priority system. So if you as the manager or the firm owner, the practice manager, if you're thinking, these are my 1s, why aren't my 1s happening? Or why aren't they happening fast enough? Well, maybe nobody else knows that those are the 1s. So you have to agree on them in order for them to actually be priority. And so the next step to this is creating a check-in system to review changes to priorities regularly, because priorities aren't static. So even if you have a way of labeling things as 1, 2s, and 3s, and you have, your way of summarizing the lists, things are going to change. And sometimes they change really quickly. So you need a way of checking in with each other so that everyone has the same expectations about when and how. So do you have a weekly meeting, or do you share a report, or is it in a shared document so that everyone can always see it, or certain people can make updates to it? And really what's recommended is that whoever is managing those tasks owns their own list. So if you're the firm owner and let's say you have 3 lawyers reporting to you, the 3 lawyers would have their own lists. You're not updating it for them. They own their lists. And if they have associates reporting to them, they're not owning their lists. Those associates own their own lists. But they discuss them and they ask for what they need to know that things are actually on track. Because, lots at stake for you. And okay, so then the next step is creating tools that will allow these individuals to manage their priorities as independently as possible and give you the updates that you need at the frequency that you need it, which may change. So you may have regular standing meetings and you may have a different way of checking in for urgent updates. And everybody knows what are the very things that you need to have flagged in these updates. Where do things stand? What are the obstacles? What's the next step? What do people need from you to move forward? What's been done? That sort of thing. Okay, so let's talk about an example. So let's say you have an associate that's really busy with a high maintenance client. I know, never happens, right? A high maintenance client that actually has nothing coming up. They're just, they've got some nervousness, and your associate hasn't learned the skills yet of managing the boundary, of creating some clarity around their role and scope of work and, boundaries, appropriate boundaries for your availability, for, who is going to be doing what for them. Okay, so what happens is they're spending a lot of time with this squeaky wheel, and you have a deadline creeping up, and materials aren't in yet, and you're still supposed to get back to opposing counsel, and things aren't getting done, and you're worried they're going to drop the ball. So that's an example of where you are not aligned on the same priority. And having a conversation and having the tools in place will not only help to make sure that you're all in agreement and on top of the same priorities, but will help to escalate the visibility of what is your associate struggling with that's keeping them away from what is actually priority 1. And so instead of getting frustrated that they're not working on the right priority, it becomes visible to you because you're open to a different way of viewing this, that they're actually struggling with something. They don't know how to manage this squeaky wheel client. And this is just an example. All right, let's move on to process number 2. So process number 2 is delegation. So leaders at law firms know the downside to not delegating. You all know it, right? It means that you have too much work. I mean, everybody's trying to get a better work-life balance these days, and yet, lawyers struggle so much with the stress of their work. There's burnout, and it also keeps you, even at leadership level, it keeps you stuck in the role that you're in. So you're still, stuck doing those things that you would really like to grow out of in order to take on something new, something different, or to scale up your firm. It keeps you stuck at that level. And your team also knows the downside because they know the downside of not receiving the work that could have been delegated to them. They're stuck in the same role at the same level. Boring, right? And yet, this continues to be an area of weakness at many law firms and really across all professional practices. Why? You probably already know the answer. Because the managers at professional practices are fearful that nobody's going to do it as well as they will. And I mean, to some extent, that's true. You're the one with the experience and you're bringing on somebody more junior, and they're not going to do it as well as you will. And so that's why we talk about doing delegation effectively. Okay, so we're going to dig into that a little more, but this is the reason why it's happening. And you know that it's going to take you a long time to train somebody. You also know the stakes are high. So you don't want somebody to fumble. You don't want them to send out something that just doesn't look right. Or you don't want them to miss an important deadline, a critical step in your process. Okay, so instead of worrying about, well, they need to be better before I can really trust them, instead of worrying about that, you can change your mindset to what can you do to help them get better? What is within your capacity in your role to offer something to them so they can get better? Okay, so here are some ideas. Now, this is a really difficult and tricky one, and it really separates managers that thrive from managers that still struggle with the people management side. Okay, this is about learning the differences in each individual that reports to you and giving each of them what they need so that they can perform at their highest level. So what do you look at? Each individual will have different level of experience, different level of skill. And by the way, that will change depending on the specific task, right? You may have somebody who has 5 years of experience and they're great, but then you give them something they've never done before, and all of a sudden they're back down at the more junior level. I mean, some of what they've done could be transferable, but you need to assess their ability based on their experience with that specific task, not their experience generally. Okay, so that's one thing to look at, and that will help you to make decisions about how much, how much mentoring to give them, how often to meet with them in along the way, instead of waiting until the end. Somebody has more experience, give them more space. They're not going to appreciate being micromanaged. So you need a different approach with different people. That's the real key here. Other things to look at based on this individualized approach is to look at their different learning styles. So everybody learns differently, and effective delegation really also depends on people learning what's needed. So, and they may already be familiar with the process, but they may not be familiar with what you want. There's always an element of learning. So what is their learning style? And some examples of that would be, well, you have introverts versus extroverts. That's something most people are familiar with, but they may not realize it affects their learning. So let's say you're booking a meeting to delegate something to somebody, or to two people or three people at the same time. Just consider, am I working with introverts or extroverts? The introverts will differ in that they will benefit from looking at materials in advance. So if you give them an email in advance with, I would like you to read this over, or I would like you to look at this, or watch this video, or whatever it is, read this precedent, whatever it is, Give them a chance to absorb the ideas or give them, an email that outlines, here are the things I want you to consider before we go into the meeting. That will help them to mentally prepare for your meeting, and you will see that they're much more productive and much more able to process the discussion. If you just hit them sort of spontaneously with these ideas, you will notice that they don't speak up as well. They don't retain it as well in the meeting. And if you ask them, okay, so how are you going to proceed? They may not be able to have an answer for you on the fly. So this is a way of working with them in order to get the most out of them. Extroverts, by contrast, will be more able to brainstorm, ideas, think out loud, and absorb ideas in the moment. And actually, they'll benefit from that, the discussion, the spontaneous discussion. So knowing who's who. And some people are visual learners, so providing them with visual materials will help them, and some people are auditory. And also, people differ in their pace of learning. So some people will naturally want to try something immediately, the whole thing. You tell them, okay, here's a new thing, you've never done it before. They'll be like, yeah, okay, let me go. And that's literally the way they will do it best. When you're dealing with somebody like that, give them a small process to start because they want to do A to Z. So give them something small. Don't start with the big complex thing. If you're looking at somebody who's nervous about that approach, telling them this is the way we do it, you just have to throw yourself into it, you won't get the best out of them. With somebody like that, you'll get the best out of them if you work with their style. So maybe they need to observe, watch somebody, or watch a video, or try a small step. So you can still show them the whole thing and tell them, do step A, and then we'll discuss it. So just work with their different styles. Okay, help them understand your expectations. What does a job well done look like to you? And help them understand why, right? Okay, and so now here's a real important trick when it comes to delegation. Never take it back. If you delegate something, don't touch it. If somebody's struggling with the thing that you delegated, there are ways to address that and support them without taking it back. This is a trap that many professionals fall into. All right. So, for example, let's say a lawyer is writing a letter and you're not happy with it. You're like, the tone hasn't landed. Don't tell them, just email it to me, I'll fix it. Because now it's yours. Now it's your problem. You've taken it back. There are other ways to address this rather than just letting them struggle. You could say, you know what, I don't have time to talk about it now. The tone hasn't quite landed, but I have ideas about it. And maybe you can think about it and let's discuss it at 3 p.m. I have 15 minutes. And they still own the task. And they grow. That's how you delegate effectively. Okay, and then the third process that we're talking about here is performance management. So judgment about performance, that comes from experience. And you may have um, clear ideas about where the people who report to you, where they land, good or bad. And even on the good side or the bad side, they may not have the same view of their own performance. So you may have guessed by now what I'm going to suggest. You can change your mindset to figure out ways to help them get on the same page as you. All right, so let's talk about some ideas. So, one of these ideas would be to get formal about goal setting. And I think Ty will also show us something about this using Legalboards. So instead of just, throwing around the possibilities or, an idea to them and saying, oh, maybe you should focus a bit more on getting out there as a speaker so that your network grows and so people start to know you, and you can build your book of business. And so instead of that just coming up randomly once or twice a year and then nothing happening, which can be very frustrating, um, get more formal about these goals. And the goals can be set based on important goals for the practice, for the firm, for you as the manager, and they can also be set based on career aspirations for that individual. And they could be somewhere in the middle, like where these things meet. But the process of setting these goals allows for you to get to know each other better, and maybe having these conversations around career aspirations actually helps you to find that intersection point between what this individual wants and cares about and what the firm needs. Or maybe it will help you to come up with new ideas that you might not have thought about. It may help you to come up with ways to keep your best talent. And in some places it may not be workable, and that's okay too. It creates opportunities for transparent conversations to keep the bridges alive, even if somebody will need to leave because they want to practice in a different area. That's okay too. Okay, so goal setting. So examples like, okay, so we've talked about, you could be saying to somebody, we've talked about you getting out there in front of your network, and you said that you're interested in speaking. So you could put some goals down around that. Uh, you know, uh, Booking some speaking engagements. And what is it that they're nervous about these speaking engagements? Are they worried that they may not be good? Have they not had a lot of experience? Is it the writing of the speech? Is it the finding the topic? Is it finding the right audience? Is it the delivery? What is it about it that they're struggling with? And create your goals around that. So maybe they will join Toastmasters, or maybe they'll just, practice with a mentor. Whatever it is that supports them to get better at this goal that you agree on. And be formal about it. So you set the goal and then you say, okay, let's keep meeting on this goal, and here are our targets for growth. So you get very specific about metrics that you're going to be measuring rather than just throwing around things randomly, it would be nice if you did this, and then nobody ever follows up. And nobody understands why that didn't happen. So here, when you say, okay, in a month or in 2 weeks, whatever makes sense for that specific goal, we're going to meet again and we're going to talk about the progress on this and this and this. And so now, well, this is an action plan and this motivates progress. And it gets into the action plan from a perspective of supporting the individual rather than forcing them or making it about, requirements. This is about helping them. Okay, and another example of that kind of a goal would be, okay, let's say somebody wants to get more skilled at managing people. So you could build goals around that. Is your team busy? Are they getting results? Do they look like they're purposeful in their work? Are they motivated? Are they growing? And help them to become that, and ask them, what is it about managing people that you're finding challenging, so that you can build in some kind of growth for them around that, around the things they struggle with. Okay, so another area of performance management that I have noticed lawyers and other professionals really, really struggle with is giving feedback. And so to get really good at performance management, this needs to be normalized. You need to master giving feedback and make it normal at your firm with your team. One of the ways to do that is to get good at receiving feedback too. Just as a quick example, if you want to turn this into part of your culture at your firm, you could say, let's say you have regular meetings with your team, you could say at the end of the meeting, let's go around the room and say, what could we have done better today? Or what did we do well this week? And also, what's an idea for something we could have done better? And it's a very soft way of doing feedback in a regular fashion. So people they get comfortable with saying something critical and finding the right words to do it, and, overcoming their fear of people pleasing, their fear of hurting somebody's feelings, and, um, sort of, getting comfortable with both the giving and the receiving of it. So, a couple of traps that happen here with the giving feedback. On the one end, some people tend to be overly nice. You know, they're very worried about hurting somebody's feelings, or, that someone's not going to hear what they really intend with their words. But if you are overly nice when you're giving feedback, know that you are holding somebody back in their career because they do not have the professional judgment that you have at your level, and they don't know what they can to be better. And this is not about poor performance. This is about all of the people who report to you. Because the biggest mistake that managers make is that they don't realize the star performers are the ones that really want the feedback. So, instead of saying, you know what, they're doing great, they don't need anything from me. Those are the ones that they're craving that feedback. Please tell me what I can do to be even better. So this kind of process applies to everybody. So being nice, too nice, and I'm not saying be mean, but if you are worried about hurting someone's feelings and you don't give them the feedback that they actually need to grow, you are holding them back in their career. You're not being nice. And then on the flip side, there are managers who struggle with holding back on that expressing disappointment or anger that they didn't get what they expected. That, this, whatever it was, deliverable, was below their standard. And so when you express disappointment or anger in that way, first of all, it's not motivating and it will hurt people's feelings, some more than others, and you may not actually know that, that's what happened. But it also won't help them to understand. You're not helping them get better because all they see is that they didn't do it right. They don't maybe even understand what they did wrong. So it's not the mindset of helping them to do better, right? And so learning some emotional restraint around, these sort of trigger points will help you to become a better manager and will help you to bring your team along to a higher level of performance. And they will be grateful for this. Um, Now there is a tool in this manager's toolbox that relates to performance management that is underutilized. This is delivering recognition. And I think that it's always been underutilized. And I think it's even worse now, post-pandemic, because a lot of teams are still working remotely or hybrid. And so, there tends to be this abrupt nature to digital meetings. Whereas if you were in the office, you might linger and say, how's your weekend? What's going on with you? Oh, let's talk a little bit more about that meeting. It was so great. I can't believe you got that new client. And these types of things don't necessarily happen when you're meeting digitally. So it's important to intentionally learn how to deliver recognition regularly, but learn how to do it in a way that has impact. And that goes beyond just saying thank you. Thank you is great. Say thank you. Don't hold back on saying thank you. But also learn how to tie your appreciation to the thing that motivates that individual. So now we're going back to what I spoke about earlier, which is understanding the distinction in each of those individuals that reports to you. What makes them different? What makes them tick? And this is not an easy thing to get at the root of, which is why having regular conversations about their career aspirations and helping them to grow will help you to tap into that better. So the more you understand about what drives each of these individuals, the better you'll be able to give a compliment to somebody in a way that really hits home. Okay? And an example of that. All right, so let's say somebody did well in court, like really well, and you just want to tell them how great it was. Great job in court. Okay, so that's one level of acknowledging it, which is great and important. Or you could go deeper with it. You could tell them, you really prepared your materials well. That's why it went well in court. It didn't just happen on that day. You made this happen over 3 months. And for some people, that will really hit home because they actually really care about process. They care about preparing materials. For somebody that's more people oriented, they may have cared about a different aspect of this. So for that kind of person, you could say, you really got to the heart of the client's story. That's why you did well in court today, because it was magical. Or maybe they care about the team. And you could say, you know what? You coordinated this process beautifully. Everybody knew their role and everybody showed up at the right time in the right way. And for that person, that will land well. So this is about learning your team, and it's not an overnight process. It's it takes time, and you have to sort of try based on what you know. And you can always ask people as you have these check-in meetings and learning more and more about them. What do you love about your job? What is it that you're hoping to learn next year? What would you like to try? And through these kinds of questions where you get to know them better, you will learn how to manage them better and how to help to bring them along to a higher level of performance. Okay, so those are the three management processes I wanted to take you through. And I would like, before we leave this formal part of the seminar, I would like to leave everyone here with a challenge. Okay, so the challenge is just start somewhere. Rather than thinking about going back to the office and, oh my, those were some important ideas. I need to implement all of them. That can be overwhelming. So instead of falling into that trap, what I want to suggest is you consider an immediate goal. One small goal to start. What can you shift in your team that would be a catalyst for change and create some momentum around, improving performance and 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 help you to maybe bring on one of these other ideas next, because success breeds success. So if you start with one action item from what we talked about today and it goes well, then that will create interest and buy-in, and it will create more excitement around trying something else. So examples of that, something small. An example of that would be, well, I've wanted our firm to docket better. Okay, so how can you create some goals around docketing better? Or is it specific individuals that are, they're more wrapped up in the case and doing a good job, or wrapped up in the research, but they keep forgetting to docket their time, and this isn't volunteer work, and that can be very frustrating. So creating some goals around that, and who needs to be involved in that, and how does that process need to be supported? How often do you need to meet? Um, Kick it off with some specific metrics that you're going to measure so that you can actually celebrate once you've succeeded. Okay. And other examples would be, business development. These are just very easy to pick off a goal. Okay. I want to network more. So what do I need to do to establish some goals around that? I want the whole team to network more. So what should we be doing to establish goals around that? Hmm. Okay, and I know Ty's going to take us through a demo, and I just would like to say that if any part of this talk resonates with you, I invite everyone here to book a 30-minute one-on-one law firm breakthrough session to uncover what's really holding your firm back and to map out your immediate next steps. And you can email me directly at Sandra Bekhor at bekhor.ca. And Bekhor is spelled Bekhor. Over to you, Ty.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, people might have some questions, but I have a few questions if I could take. So, the first one that come to my mind is, do you have any tip or cultural advice that could help us to understand where is the moment to delegate? Because I think this is a topic very hard for most of the lawyers because they do all of the steps. They are able to do all of the steps. How they can slice and how they manage to delegate part of their work. Do you have an idea how this could be something?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to the idea of individualizing your plan. So rather than saying, this is how I'm going to delegate moving forward, to think about the people that report to you and their skill, their level of experience, but also their interest, and what is it they want to get involved in. But as much as possible, taking off a piece of something so that that person can own it. So rather than giving them, oh, this little thing that, that will plug into a process that you are still managing, and they're not going to feel any ownership of that. As much as possible, give them a complete task and
Yeah.
remember to meet with them, give them the milestones, give them the clarity of expectations up front. Does that help, Ty?
A lot. On this topic, I think at least for me, it's complicated to have cadence and a cultural mindset of feedback. It's always important, should happen occasionally. What is your tips on how we can implement this culture internally?
How to implement a culture of giving feedback?
Yeah.
I think it starts with the leader being vulnerable. Don't leave the Zoom, okay? All right, I'm gonna explain. So you can't ask other people to be open to receiving feedback if you don't show them how to do that. Right? So, you can have one-on-ones with your team where you're actually being open about aspects of your role that you've maybe never done before, or you would like to do better, and, asking them for feedback. So, how can I manage you better? How can I help you grow better? Or you were at this meeting with this new client, you got to observe me, give me your feedback. What do you think I could do better next time at a first meeting or at a pitch? Or you saw me speak at that event. You give me feedback. Did you watch my body language? What can I do better?
Yeah.
So that gets them more used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And also I think give more human relationship.
Yes.
The partners are not there to be the god of the firm. We are there to work together. So might everyone have different opinions and could increase the firm over time.
Yeah, and honestly, it's better for everyone. Like it might be hard in the beginning to get used to doing this because you've never done it before and it does feel vulnerable. But actually, once you get into it, there's a sense of relief to not have to pretend that you're good at everything because you're not. Because you know why? Nobody is.
Yep. Yep. And this hits home because I also have a 13 years old boy that I need to raise. And this is something also in the personal style. Like, yeah, I make mistakes as you. So this
Yeah.
open the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the last few minutes of this session here, I'm gonna share here a Kanban style workflow that could be the source of all those topics that Sandra is delivering here, and where you could put everything together and help you to keep track of everything. Again, this is just an idea, and of course, I'm using Legalboards to show with that, but you really can do it in paper and pen and or anywhere that you prefer. So Sandra also could help me to improve my workflow here, so she can give some tips on me here. So what I have here is a workflow in Legalboards that I create specific for my team member, Katie. So this workflow, my idea here, Sandra, was create a workflow where I can have different stages, different sections here. And also I can share this workflow with Katie. So she can, you can see my screen. I don't know if
It's
it's,
it showed for a second and then it shrank down to a thin vertical strip.
Yeah,
okay, no problem. I share again. Let's
please.
redo it. Stop sharing. share again. Here you go. Now it's, you can see it?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. So my idea here, Sandra, was create a whiteboard to share with my team member. So I could have one of those for each one of the team members I have in my firm, and I share this space with them. So you can see here I have my Katie team member, so she can see the expectations we have set up. We have a job description here. We have a role quality agreement here. We also set up together the party goals, what we are expecting to improve in the next following months, some skills review, so email response times, something that we can drop here, some ideas or some feedbacks together. And here, I have added this next to talk. It's like a inbox session that even Katie or myself, we can drop here some ideas like, well, client communication is not good. Let's talk about this in the following weeks. But also Katie could drop something like, well, work balance is not good for me. I want to have more space and room in my schedule. So those are my ideas of how we can document everything. Do you have takes here for me?
So this would be a priority management system.
Yeah, like something that we can revisit together, Katie and I as a manager of her, and we can open the items here. So for example, email response times. Here I said, what is the problem we are seeing? Here we give some goals, some examples how we can take all that. And also we can use the timeline to drop some comments like, hey, you got a great improvement last week, and we could open this together in a online session. Even if it's everyone home office, we could open this together and talk about this and discuss those items here.
So I love this, and for everyone watching this, this is my first time seeing this. So Ty and I talked about this idea, and I love the interactive element to this session because it makes the ideas less abstract. Um, and this is very creative, right? Bringing the ideas into fruition here. I think this is an interesting example of how to get away from performance reviews. So performance reviews are becoming more controversial, among consultants, and a way to replace them and still focus on performance is to have a coaching system where you establish goals and you review them quarterly, but to still have some formality to it. And this is an example of, okay, this is in writing. Like the actual employee would have in writing, great improvement this week. I made progress on my goals. So, if when it comes to reviewing salary or talking about promotions, you still have that sort of momentum forward, even if you discard the performance reviews. Doing something like this would give you that formality to improving performance.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. I also like this next to talk because I like the idea of when you are managing people, you give right away insights like, hey, what you did right now was not exactly what we should do, or hey, this is good. But also, I want to have a place that we could register that and putting all together, and also have a space the team member also share their problems. So I want to talk about this in 2 weeks because I'm gonna have a one-on-one with my manager, and I want we talk about that. So this is also, I don't know what you think about it, but a good open space that we can put on are the topics that we should discuss.
Yeah, I mean, what this does is it creates openness to giving feedback. So here you're saying, okay, we're going to be talking about something. That means I have some comments I need to share. So
Yeah.
they're being forewarned about it, and they may have a chance to prepare for that. But what you're also doing here, and I find people really struggle with this, is you're giving them an opportunity to ask for what they need.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe how many times I have coached people, professionals with years of experience, and they're having a problem. and I ask them, did you talk about this with your supervisor? Almost always the answer is no.
Yeah.
And why do they say no? Because they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
Serious. These are smart people, accomplished people, and they don't talk about it. But when you normalize the we need next to talk about this, you're giving them a permission to say, I need something. Okay, every time we meet, I want you to tell me what you need.
Yeah, I love that. So nice. So that this workflow here is one that I built based on your speech. The other one I create here, it's called Team Overview. This is just for myself as a partner of the firm, and this is more broad. So this is what I expect to my whole team. So I have team goals. I have challenges that I can see my team are facing, check-ins that I want to do with everyone, feedback loops, coaching sessions. So some ideas that we can put here for the entire team. This one, I don't think this it's nice to share with all of the firm, but
Right,
maybe
that's yours.
management
Great.
level. I think it's something
Mhm.
that we put everyone together, because what I feel is this cultural in the firm is something that you need to keep talking like a
Yeah,
little bit every day, because
yeah.
in the backburn of your of your brain, and you need to keep this up always in every conversation.
So, would you add something like, here are my top priorities in here?
Yeah, I would say the team goals could be something that we swap. And okay, this was this milestone here that is a SOP for my draftings. This we have finished that, so this is a complete milestone. This is not more a problem, and then we could add more items here. So
And
this is, yeah, go ahead.
how do you show the difference in the priorities? So when I was talking about one, two, three, so this is urgent, this is not as urgent, this is the least urgent. How do you show that here?
I think what I will think to address that using labels. So we could put 3 cards here, each one with a different color, label color, and everyone could see here. And okay, this is my level of priority.
Yeah, that's great. And it's so easy to see it at a quick glance. What
Yeah,
is top priority? Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Amazing. So, well, that's it. I was looking only to give this open ideas to how to put in place all Sandra's speech and how you could start to address that right away. And what we're gonna do here for the following days is this session, it's being recorded. We're gonna launch this on YouTube and also in our website, and we're gonna share with everyone here. Sandra also prepared a deck that is gonna be shared by email with everyone here at the session. And those 2 workflows here, I'm gonna transform into a workflow template in Legalboards, and you also can download from our website. Okay, so thank you so much, Sandra. It was amazing. It was really good. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, that was great. I love the partnership. I love how you took the ideas we talked about and created these workflows in it and made it so visual. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too for your time. I hope we can do this more often. So bye, everyone. Have a great rest of week.